I've got a sad story to tell you because during the pandemic, just 6 weeks ago, Les Lawrenson, a Cambridge University-educated lawyer, found himself reading lots of information online that persuaded him not to get the vaccine, so much so that when he and his partner, Amanda, who joins us now, tested positive, Les was convinced he would make a swift recovery.
So this is COVID-19, and it gets no worse than this. You know, I'll gladly take it, get the antibodies in my blood, and have a natural immunity, and also experience that it's nothing to be afraid of, because I'd rather have the antibodies in my blood than take the jabs. What I've experienced so far is nothing different. But the dangers of potential dangers from taking the experimental jab, for me, are not worth that risk.
Well, as we said, watching that is Les's partner, Amanda, and his stepdaughter, Carla. Our condolence to you both, firstly. We're so sorry for your loss, and that must be very, very difficult for you to sit and we asked your permission to show that, because you discovered that kind of blog after Les passed away. It's very clear there, Amanda, that he believed his immune system could cope with this, and you think that's what he was trying to show to people. Look, it's just a bit of flu, I'm fine. What were his feelings generally about COVID? Why was he against the vaccine?
He was worried that it was experimental, that it hadn't been out there long enough to see the long-term effects. And that's really what he was against. He just didn't trust it to be safe enough.
He wasn't anti-vaccines generally, just this particular...
Just this particular one. He thought it had been rushed through.
Yeah. And
you didn't know he was making those videos,
no.
did you?
I found those after he'd passed away.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell us about when because you got ill together, him first, then you quite quickly afterwards.
Yeah, I got it 2 days after him. He seemed to be rallying round quite well, really. I thought I was doing OK, but because I've got underlying health issues, I started to deteriorate quite quickly, and he actually was more concerned for my welfare than his own. He kept checking on me. But because he was 2 days away from coming out of isolation, and he was still working, he worked from home, he was still doing at least 4 to 5 hours a day work from bed. But he still carried on because he thought he was beating this virus. He really thought he would survive it.
As you could see from the video, and not long after that, he was dead, of course. Carla, tell us about your stepfather. What sort of man was he?
He was a great dad. He's a great stepdad, full of life, full of character, very entertaining, a very, very talented musician. He played lead guitar in a local band, and that was his passion. We joked that he literally became a solicitor to fund a music habit that he thoroughly enjoyed. He used to aggravate us with cameras in our faces. He had a drone that he used to take out on flights and recording stuff. He was just a really talented, funny guy who supported and loved my mum and younger brothers so much. It's just such a shame that he just didn't take that vaccine. Had
you been vaccinated at all? Had he been... Well, he obviously wasn't vaccinated, but had he been offered vaccination?
I had.
Yeah.
By my doctor.
What was his view with you being vaccinated, and what was your view with him not being vaccinated? I mean, as a couple, were you not argue with each other, saying you should, you shouldn't?
But you hadn't had yours either at that point,
no. And I still haven't, because I haven't been well enough to have it done, but I'm waiting to have it done. Sometimes we beg to differ on things. We kind of respected each other's feelings on things. He used to try and say, read this, Amanda, read this. This is really important. This backs up what I'm saying. Sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't. And
he was a very intelligent man, clearly.
Yeah.
You know, he was a lawyer. Yeah, so when he told you things, gave you things to read, I presume there were times when you went, well, actually, maybe he does have a point, or that's interesting. And...
Yeah, because he managed to get a scholarship to uni, so he was quite clever.
Yeah.
And I tended to believe what he told me, because he loved us all. Why would he want to put us all in danger? He really thought he was protecting us from what he thought was an unsafe vaccine at that point.
The day that he died, that you found him dead, you were both in the same house. You reckoned your symptoms were 2 days behind his. So tell me about his last day. What was happening to you?
On the last day, I know he'd been up the night before. I'd heard him in my younger son's bedroom watching him on the Xbox. And then he'd said to my 11-year-old, Daddy feels really tired, I need to go to bed. They were the last words he said to anyone, as far as we can tell. By this point, I was downstairs on the sofa sleeping because it was more comfortable. I remember my 19-year-old, who actually found him, had to go out to pick a suit up and said, I'll be back later, Mum. But the doctor's already given me a SATS monitor because I'd already got pains in my back.
So you were very unwell downstairs.
The doctors were already watching for me. So I remember being really uncomfortable and thinking, if I just go and lie in a bed for a while, I'll feel better. I remember getting up and feeling very hot, having a bath, and I actually went into the room where he was and didn't notice him there because I was so poorly. Got a change of clothes, came down, and that's when my son came home and found me on the sofa, not really responsive. So he rang my daughter, and she said, ring...
Which is you, Carla, yeah.
Ring the ambulance. Mum's obviously not at all well. She hasn't been responding to my texts or anything. And the paramedics came. They said I needed to go to hospital. I was really poorly. And I said, well, I can't go. I need to get stuff together. We need to let Les know to look after Blake, my 11-year-old. So they agreed that I would go in very quickly, but my son could take me. So my 19-year-old Taylor ran upstairs, ran in the bedroom, said, Les, you've got to look after Blake. Mum's going to hospital. And he'd found him dead.
Oh, my goodness, your son, your poor son. So he came down. Were you... I mean, you were quite delirious at this point, were you?
I wasn't
unresponsive.
I wasn't really with it. I was sitting on the bottom stair and he came running down, crying, saying, Mum, Les is dead, just as simple as that. And I remember saying, how do you know he's dead? What makes you think he's dead? And he just went, Mum, he just looks like the colour of concrete, he's gone.
Yeah. But the paramedics did come, and sadly he had gone.
They confirmed it, that he'd passed away. The same paramedic that'd seen me, they got a phone call saying, come back, someone's passed away, and they thought it was me.
Yeah, and you needed medical attention that day. You put it off because obviously you needed to tend to Les and what had happened in the house. Eventually you were hospitalised. You're okay? You feel okay now?
I'm getting there. I mean, I got COVID pneumonia.
Yeah.
So I was on oxygen for 7 days.
Steroids.
And steroids.
Yeah, but look, beside you we've got the doctor here, Dr Nighat, who feels it's important. I mean, there are a lot of people like Les. You can understand why he thought the way he did. He felt he had researched his subject and he felt that there were answers to back up his doubts. What would you like to say to people who think the same as that?
Firstly, my deepest condolences to Carla and Amanda. We've had a long chat about this because Les was a Cambridge graduate, educated, highly intelligent individual. So we can't even say that misinformation is out there for those who are, air quotation, uneducated. But there are this misinformation that's going around. And unfortunately, I, as a doctor, am seeing misinformation spreading faster than the virus. People get a tiny little information that might be taken out of context, and then the algorithm, the way it works on social media, it just gets blown apart and just goes further and further and further. So there's so many misinformation bits that I'm seeing out there. So the vaccines happen too fast. My counter-argument...
That seems to be a very big concern for a lot of people. It's like, well, it was just developed too quickly, and normally they take years to develop.
And I work as part of Team Halo, which is a verified group of doctors who are working around the world trying to tackle and answer these questions with legitimate, soundproof evidence. Now, 75% of the population, adult population, is double vaccinated, but there's a small, significant 25% which still is hesitant about getting the vaccine. My answer to the fact that the vaccine is too fast, well, we are working on decades' worth of vaccines. We've known about vaccines and how viruses work in immune systems since Edward Jenner, since the 18th century. And this vaccine builds on already knowledge. The minute that we knew that the pandemic had hit, this is the first time that the whole global entity, the scientists, the manufacturers, the money, the people who wanted to take part in the research for the vaccine, they were primed and ready. We've just never had that sort of interest in other sort of medicines. So it hasn't been done fast. It's been completely checked through by the MRHA and also the world governing bodies from across the globe. So you can say, well, the MRHA, but we've got approval from other global phenomenal research bodies. The other thing is that there are trackers in there. So there's lots of TikTok videos that I get tagged into. There's no such thing as trackers on here at all. Or they'll say that, well, the needle is left in the arm because the needle is retracted. Well, that's the safety mechanism that we have. Then the other myth that we get is it causes infertility. So the vaccine will cause the way that it works. There is no plausible way that the vaccine will cause infertility. And there's reasons behind that because, A, what it does is that it's not a live vaccine. It just shows the mRNA in the vaccine shows your immune system, this is what you're going to be infected by. Start making copies. The immune system goes away, it starts making mug copies. So when the actual virus enters your system, your immune system is ready and goes, oh, I recognise you. I know exactly what to do with you. I'm going to destroy you.
And then what about many people like Les himself who just believed, you know what, I've got a decent immune system, I've got no underlying health problems, this will just be like a bout of flu, I can cope with this. As we saw there with his videos, day 3 or 4 into the virus, he still believed, although he felt very unwell, he still believed that his own body and his immune system would get him through.
But guys, what do you think? I mean, the doctor can talk and there'll be people watching here and they will say, well, she would say that. She's part of the whole system and whatever. Is there anything you would like to say on behalf of Les or what you've learnt from what happened to Les?
I'll just ask everybody that's sitting on the fence, really sit down and reconsider your decision and look at what it's based on. Is it really based on medical evidence and scientific experts? Who's giving you this information? Where are you getting it from? And think of what we've just gone through. Like, are you going to want to go through that as a family? I really don't think you do. So please just reconsider and take that vaccine and try and protect yourselves and loved ones.
And are you going to have your vaccine now?
Definitely. I can't at the moment because I'm on antibiotics. So they said give it a few days, just pop along and have it done. But going on from that, basically, I feel if you're not having it, and I was one that wasn't going to have it, I think you're really playing Russian roulette with your lives. Yeah. You really have to think about it really carefully.
And I think what Carla was saying there, Nighat, the United Nations have issued guidance on this. What are they saying as regards information?
So there's some excellent advice because lots of people out there will be thinking, well, I come across these videos, what should I be doing? The most important thing is that always, why am I sharing this? Check it. If it evokes an emotional response, double check that emotional response. What is the source of information? Where did it come from? When was it published and who has made it before sharing? So just be slightly careful because it's this misinformation that's going about there that's allowing people to have detrimental effect on their lives. And ultimately, in Les's case, you know, he paid the ultimate price, which is so saddening because this was a preventable death. I think that's the thing that is tragic about this. This is preventable and can be prevented if you take the vaccine.
Well, again, we're so sorry for your loss. Our condolences to you and your family. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.